nyamiri, nyamiri, Coco nyamiri, nyamiri, Coco nyamiri, nyamiri, Coco nyamiri, nyamiri, Ibole, Ibole, Ibobono, Amamighe, Ibole, Ibole, Ibobono, Amamighe, Ebulanyelu, 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 Anamabarana, Ihe Njo, Manilezi, Kono Teke, Anamabarano, Ihe Njo.
And why? Your prom.
Good morning, Ndewo. Look at all of you. Wherever you are, I may not see you, but I know you're doing just well. You're doing fine. You woke up this morning. What a reason to celebrate. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today again on Chism Live. It is my pleasure to welcome you to this episode today. Again, Otitoni Lady ChinEke, here we are. We're still alive, inhaling and exhaling. Thank you, ChinEke, for this wonderful opportunity we call today. And we hope that today will move our minds and our bodies in the perfecting presence of ChinEke and the ancestors. So that this new special day that we're given to us is a blessing. That's why it's called present. We are in the present. So we will use this day given to us as a present to do positive things, personal in our personal lives, as well as in the lives of others. Let me start today by asking ChinEke and the ancestors to begin to teach us what we have to do, to begin to remind us how important we are, how precious life is. To do that, we will pour libations and give thanks to the Almighty. But before we do that, let me invite my co-host, Yudi Onyoha, to offer first and foremost ekele.
Kao, tụzụ niile buru ihe ife ọbụla kpatara aka tụ ọ bụrụkwa ahụ mma mma ka ụwa niile site n'ozi ọma anya nwa obi aṅụrị site ụgbọala ombeli na-ebighị ebi
Ise.
Yagazie, may every way of our lives be light. May all our acts be crowned with good. And may the world prosper through the ministry of Chiism, now and forevermore.
And so it is.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm good. I'm good. I am so excited to be here today. It is indeed a wonderful day.
Yes.
Before I even go to the next thing, which will be pouring of libations, let's welcome Dibias. Che Dozie. I just brought him in and I don't see him. Dibias Che Dozie, can you see us? Can you hear us? He's looking very handsome this morning. I mean,
he'll float in sooner or later. It's the way of Nigerian internet, you know. It slows you up. But if you're patient enough and you're hanging enough, you will see the light very soon. So he'll come in when he's able to.
Okay, I think as usual, he's having some difficulties with the internet in Nigeria, but that's okay. That's okay. We are going to continue. So Yudi, I'm going to pour libations, and of course, I need you to say with me. Let me remind everybody: if you don't have this charger, Okwanzu, you need to consider getting it. You know, I had a friend of mine who came to visit. Now, I had offered her Okwanzu all the time that she comes to visit. So this time she was here for a little bit, and I hadn't offered it, and I thought she was acting silly, kind of weird. And I asked her, "Are you okay?" She wouldn't move. She just put her hand behind her, stood by the door. So I asked her, "Are you coming in?" She says, "Yes, I'm coming in." I said, "Well, come in then." She says, "Well, you're just not doing it right today, Dr. Simiri." I said, "What am I not doing right?" She says, "Where's my chalk?" Where's my chalk? I said, "Oh my God, okay."
He held you to account. There you go.
Just, I've been presenting that to her. Then today I did. That day I did. So she reminded me, So if you don't have this, this is part of our tradition. Greeting people, welcoming people to our homes with Okwanzu. For those of you who don't know, you dip your, what's in here inside of this. I don't know if you can see it, but what's inside of this is a chalk, okay, koelin. And it has a lot of medicinal values. But in the first place, what we use it for the most part is also to help a woman who's pregnant and maybe suffering from nausea. They take a bite of it and it helps with the nausea. But we dip our right middle finger into the charger, into the chalk, and smear it on our left wrist. And that means we're welcome. So I'm welcoming all of you today. Even if you don't have it, I'm presenting it to you. And I ask that everything in your life goes well for you today, tomorrow, and so forth. From henceforth, anything about you is of importance to us. These are little traditional things that we hold dear. So I am going to pour libations, and we all know libations is so important when Africa is together. Not just African people. There are lots of organizations that do libations. That is how we have relationship with our ancestors, because you can't forget the ancestors. You can't start anything without giving thanks to the Most High, and you cannot, and I mean you cannot, continue to do anything you're doing without bringing in the most essence of who we are as a people, and that is the pouring of libations. So let me take this moment to pour libations. But before I get started, let me take the time and welcome Benson Sereria from Kenya. Hello, Benson. Benson, how are you? It's a pleasure to see you. Everyone, Benson,
good, thank you.
Very much interested in our spirituality. He wants to go back into on spirituality.
Welcome.
Communicating with
Thanks
me on Facebook. So I invited him today so we can just have a little chat, and he'll get a little idea about what we do here. So Benson, I'm welcoming you.
Welcome.
Okay, so right now I'm going to pour libations, and while you're in the studio, I'm going to remove you for now, but you still see what we're doing. Okay.
All right. Great.
Okay. So we pour libations. Yudi, I pour libations today in honor, first and foremost, ChinEke, the Most High, divine, the Spirit that makes everything possible. Who we are, we represent all that is good in ChinEke, all that is good in the universe, all that is good in nature. We pour libations to give thanks for the great gift of nature, because quite frankly, that's where we get everything. The air, the water, the trees, the wind, everything comes from that. So we say, thank you, ChinEke. May nothing but goodness continue to flow through what you have given us, and that is nature, your greatest gift to humanity. As we pour libations today, let me call upon the ancestors. The ancestors are the reason why we are here today. And without them, we're truly nothing. And anybody who forgets their ancestors are forgetting their roots. No matter how you play it, if you don't remember the ancestors, don't even start praying, because without them, we will not be here. That's the first blessing ChinEke gave us, for us to be here is through them. So today we say, ChinEke, email our ancestors, no, welcome to our space. Welcome the great-grandmothers, great-grandfathers. We welcome all those children on the path of coming to us who are not here yet. We wish them good tidings on their way here. And then, of course, we recognize that there are those who passed before they reached the ripe old age of 80. We ask ChinEke today that their path may be wide and clear, so that nothing but goodness shall follow them. Dear ChinEke, we ask you to teach us, every human being, to love themselves as they are. Teach us to love ourselves in our own skin as we are. Teach us to open our minds to love ourselves without resistance. Somebody say. We ask you to help us to open our hearts to love ourselves without fear. I ask you to help me, myself, to give in and receive love for myself without anger, without resentment, or expectation or returns or rewards from other people. ChinEke, you are the ultimate. All my blessings come through you. You are the only validation that I need. ChinEke, teach us to speak from what place that within our being that is your love for us. Somebody say. Teach us how to give love to ourselves in the quiet moments of reflection and in those of anguish or doubt. Ask the ancestors to come into our hearts, into our space, and continue to love us through our challenges. Teach us how to love with our heart, not our head, so that we can find love in all people, circumstances, and conditions when we are amongst them, but not feel inferior and not feel diminished. Just because we're different from other people does not mean we're inferior. We're just a part of humanity as designed by ChinEke. He says, I love ChinEke. We ask today to fulfill your law through us. Know that it is our desire to do your will, but show us how, ChinEke. Today, we want to affirm, accept, and embrace that we are one with love. We are in love and a shining example of your love. ChinEke Olodumare, Tamwana Jinya Mika Tonda Nyemi Nkosi, Uvuzilele, Ukulunkulu. ChinEke has different names. However you call ChinEke is good enough. That is what Jesus is about. We embrace diversity, but we do not and we refuse to give up on our own. Teach us to live the truth of the words, that we may be a blessing from you to ourselves, and in so doing, we can become a blessing to others. ChinEke, today we ask you to remind us to love the part of you that we are, to look in the mirror and see you, to reject anything that undermines us, to refuse to be undermined, to refuse to look down upon, and most importantly, to refuse to look down on ourselves. ChinEke, we call upon you and the ancestors, and these ancestors are too numerous to call, but let us call our own personal ancestors. You know who they are. I'll start with my father. Keoko Onyoha. Please call out the names of your ancestors wherever you are. Obimosa. Dadibo me. We call upon Madiba of South Africa. Julius Nyerere. Dr. Nnamdi Azikiwe. Rosa Parks. Mary Bethune McLeod. And there are so many ancestors whose names are unknown to us, but we know they existed thousands and thousands of years ago. We know that we are surrounded where we are by thousands and thousands of ancestors. We don't know who they are, but we know they existed, because if they didn't, we would not be here today. So to them we say thank you. Thank you. And ChinEke, thank you for nature. Thank you for everything that you have done for us and will continue to do for us. We are grateful. We are grateful. On that note, let us please make noise for our ancestors. Make noise wherever you are. Make noise for the ancestors. I feel so ready to face my day. Because you know what? I know that the ancestors are here right now. We take a little bit of this water and sprinkle it around. So anything negative planned for me shall not prosper. Because I just called up the ancestors. I'm a walking power. I'm surrounded by power. So I fear nothing, seen and unseen. Anything and everything in the universe, I am claiming this day as my divine inheritance. And so it is. And so it is. Dibia Chodoze is still trying to get in. So I'm going to bring in our guest today, Benson.
Yes.
How do you say it in Kenya? How do you say it? And so it is in Kenya.
He said,
in the language.
Amen.
Like
yeah, amen. How do you say that?
Yeah, you see, Kenya, the problem that is happening is like there's a renunciation of the culture. So even the generation, they are lost. They don't even know what to say.
Okay, well, you know it. So what is it? What is it?
In your traditional language, how do you say amen or so let it be?
And so let it be. Well, how do you say it?
Yeah, in Swahili say acha ikue hivyo.
There you go. Acha ikue hivyo.
Acha ikue hivyo.
I like that.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
I'm going to have to learn that.
Yeah.
I'm going to definitely learn that. Thank you. Thank you for being here today. My brothers and sisters, our discussion today is Ezi Amamighe. Ezi Amamighe, true knowledge. You know, it's very, very deep. And I hope you pay attention. Because you see, to understand who you are, the Igbo people say, to understand who you are, you must arrive at an understanding of the difference between true knowledge and learned acquiescence. Living as a human being according to ChinEke's design, that is your nature. When you were born, that is your natural self. Living as a human being is your nature. To arrive at the understanding of one's genuine identity what is your identity is the consequence of your culture. Umenala.
It's true.
So you are born as you are designed by the Most High. But when you begin to live, to find your genuine identity, it is a consequence of your culture, where you were born, what you were born into. For the most part, also as African people, our culture, as Benson has indicated, we're running from it.
Yeah, that's true.
We're running from it. So knowing the difference between your human nature and what you have learned outside of your culture, knowing that difference is what we call Amamighe, true knowledge.
Amamighe, yeah.
True knowledge.
Oh.
To understand who you are, you must arrive at that understanding of the difference between true knowledge and learned acquiescence without thoughtful inquiry. When you accept identity that was not designed for you. See, it is designed for you to be an Igbo man, to be a Yoruba man, to be a Hausa man. That is the design. That is your nature. And then when you're born into that culture, that's when you learn your identity. But when you assume something different without thoughtful inquiry, who you become is not your true identity.
True.
Yes.
Absolutely.
True.
Well said.
That's true.
So the fact that we don't question what we add to our nature to create our identity is the problem most of us have. As Benson has said, they're running from their identity.
Sure.
They are accepting a contrived identity. Happiness is knowing who you are and practicing and embracing all that it is.
Wow, powerful.
As much as you try to climb the mountain without using your hands, without using your legs, you may fall. Now, you can use the rope and everything. You better know if the rope snaps, what you're going to do next. We have a rope behind us, an identity somebody has given us, and we are trying to climb the mountaintop, just using that. And when it snaps, we all fall down to the valley. We don't know what to do. Confusion is the result. That's why we are confused in our homeland. I'm going to play a video for you. But before I play that video, let me say this. The fact that we don't question what we add to our identity is the reason why we are gullible. The reason why anybody can come and sell something to us, because our identity, our true identity, is not strong. We don't know it. So we grasp at whatever somebody comes and say, hey, it's better that you be this, it's better that you be that. Because we have rejected our identity, somebody can switch us onto anything. And we go along, but we fail. We become gullible to deceit. We're gullible to confusion. We're gullible to manipulation. I'm going to play this video. Some of you have seen it. But I believe that sometimes you don't need to reinvent the wheel. When we return, we will talk about this video. It speaks about the consequences of not having good knowledge, propagating falsities that people share with us and tell us this is what's better. And then we abandon who we are and we go for it. And people ask, what's going on in Africa? What's going on in Africa? What's going on in Africa is intentionally placed there. See, I'm not here. I think it's important that everybody understand. I am not bastardizing anybody or any cultures. I'm just saying, if you're Nigerian, be Nigerian. That's your identity. If you're Kenyan, be Kenyan. That's your identity. Be what your ancestors gave to you. Let me play this video. This video was it's about what we're just talking about today. This lady is powerful. Just listen to her, and we'll come back and talk.
The other weapon that imperialism uses, which is a challenge for Pan-African Renaissance, there's religion. Some of us, you know, with all our radical rhetorics, it's shocking. We are still deeply Christian, deeply Muslim, deeply this, deeply everything but African. You see, the clapping has gone down because there's a lot of intention in the room. And we can't understand as long as you continue to see and to understand God and the Creator through the lenses of another race, you will never know freedom in your life. Never. Religion is a cultural understanding of the spiritual. That's why Indians are Buddhist and these Jews are that and this and that. It's just an expression, an attempt to understand, you know, the supernatural. So when we as Africans continue the denigration, you hear Africans say, oh, that's fetish. Like some people, you know, when they see the cowries, oh, that's fetish. Do you know what it is? You know, this is where the problem is here. In the head. In the head. And if we don't fix that problem in the head and in the mind, we ain't going nowhere. You see, the Chinese are coming to Africa, right? Or they're already there. They're going to bring their own God, Confucius, whatever it is they practice. And you'll see Africans there, you know, worshipping. There must be a cultural revolution also. If there is no cultural revolution, our political revolution will not succeed. It will be hijacked and defeated. Because while we've done half of it here in the mind, because there's here and then there's here. That's why there's so many of us in church. If you go to Africa, my God, when some of the big churches have their congregation, 10,000 people at one service. Well, you know, I can't even talk about because when they have their revivals in Nigeria, do you know there's no space for them in the city? They have to give them space outside. 2 million people turn up looking for redemption, looking for the Messiah. But we have to understand that because the state has failed them, society has failed them, only Jesus has not failed them. And the reason why that hasn't happened is that they're most unlikely to meet him. The same thing. And I don't mean to upset any of the Christians here. I come from a Christian home, a background, you know, we're serious Catholics. My mom has got her big shrine in our house. All right? So I know what I'm talking about. But in coming into revolutionary consciousness, you begin to ask yourself questions. You begin to free your mind. If we want to get free, because there's some of us who don't want to get free. I must tell you that. There are lots of no, they want to be a bit more comfortable. They want to have access to the same privileges that white people have. Not understanding that Europeans had to steal our resources and murder our people before accessing those privileges. So, for those Africans who want the same privileges, I always advise them to go and look for a brand new race of people that they can exploit, a brand new territory somewhere that they can exploit in order to have those resources. Because some of us want orange juice without oranges. We want freedom without struggle. That's what some of us want. That's why we wait for the Messiah. Because you see, the Messiah is going to bring it, you see. We'll be folding our arms like this, and the Messiah will bring it right up to us. Say, here you go, good people. You deserve it. You're deceiving yourselves. And if we're not careful, in the next 30, 40, and 50 years, our children will come again whether we assemble in London, in Lagos, in Accra, in wherever, and have the same discussion.
Yes, yes, I give this woman an applause. And I'm gonna say what I need to say, and then I'll bring the rest of you, and you can give us your perspective on what Dibias has joined us now. But let me give my perspective on what she said before I bring the rest of you in. Let's understand something. I speak to you as somebody who has a science background in psychology, clinical psychology, as well as behavior management, organizational behavior management. So I know the importance of knowledge. Some people think they have knowledge, but I know that you have to have empirical facts for you to say what you have to say. For me to give anybody any information, I must make sure that it's factual. But many of us soak up false narratives because the pastor said. You don't even know what that pastor's background is. You don't know if he knows what he's talking about. He sends you to a chapter of the Holy Book, and before you can start to read it, he tells you to close the chapter, close it. That he will explain it to you. But he doesn't always tell you the truth. When we speak about knowledge, my brothers and sisters, we speak of the scope of information that we gather through exposure and experience and perception. Acquaintance, let me say that word again, acquaintance with facts may or may not be fully reflective of the truth. So somebody's fact, that's why they say his story is his story. It may not be based on fact, but that's the story he wants you to have. Even some research is based on somebody's conclusion. And you may find, if you did your research, you may find something totally different. May not be the same thing as the person who supposedly is a researcher. Acquaintance with facts may or may not be fully reflective of the truth. It's important to know that what people are telling you every Sunday when you take your children to environments that supposedly is teaching them about God, make sure it's based on truth, because intellectual knowledge is born of the individual mind and can be subject to judgment. So the people who are giving you information, their information may be subject to judgment. Now, many of us parade with the so-called intellectual knowledge because it has a certain stamp on it by some academic institution or by some learned person. So we look at that person and say, oh, that person is an intellectual. So intellectualism may be totally different from spiritual knowledge. Spiritual knowledge is born of divine mind, is within you, founded in principle, based on your internal understanding of who ChinEke is. You can draw that, draw that conclusion yourself. It's a personal relationship. Spiritual knowledge is personal between you and the Creator. Most of us who walk around here calling ourselves knowledgeable are not. Because I'm telling you, there is nobody who tells me that they're knowledgeable and they're feeding me some of the garbage some of these religions are feeding us. And they say they're intellectuals. Sometimes you go to these places of worship and you find, oh, you are doctors, lawyers, engineers. How can they be intellectuals? How can they really tell you anything if they cannot accept facts? Those very same people who have spent years getting PhDs cannot understand a simple fact about some of what they have been taught is falsities. The greatest knowledge you have is the knowledge you have between you and the Creator. It's personal. It's personal knowledge. Because it's that personal knowledge, if you would admit to it, that makes you act a certain way. Now, this is not to say that people of religious affinities do not act right. That's not what I'm saying. But if you yourself feel comfortable in yourself, knowing your connection to the Most High, and that's what African spirituality is, that direct communication, monachiso, I am one with the Creator. If you know that, and it's making you do the right things, you're kind, you're walking in the path of righteousness, you don't hurt anybody, you don't do any harm, that is true knowledge. That's your knowledge. And guess what? Your culture has something to do with that, because your cultural values may tell you things to do and what not to do. When you step outside of that and go and embrace other people's values, it conflicts with your cultural values. And for the most part, as you try to be as them, you drop your own values and become something that is not intended for you. That is not your identity. You go outside of yourself and they control your mind. Your mind is no longer yours. You start doing crazy things and believing crazy things like she was saying. You can never find freedom if you don't embrace who you are. My people, I don't understand why it takes so much for us to get that. I have friends that I have lost because I don't believe in their spiritual way of life. I don't care what you believe. What I believe is what's important to me. My spiritual knowledge is important to me. Monachiso, I am one with God. Right where I am, God is. Right where I am, ChinEke is. That's where my power is. Every single day, I walk in holy boldness because I have my 10,000 ancestors with me. I have the most power, ChinEke, in me. I can't give that up. But we do that every day. As African people, we have the powerful tool in the hands of the oppressors. I say that all the time. And Stephen Biko said it to young South Africans. The most powerful tool in the hands of an oppressor is the mind of the oppressed. That is why we are so oppressed and we don't understand why. We wallow in ignorance of the truth. We hate those who tell us the truth. We relinquish our free choice and free will. We engage in the drama that pushes us down and pulls us under. Oh, we're cool with that. But if somebody says, you know what? You're from Uganda. What is your culture? Oh, no, I don't do that. You're from Nigeria. What does your culture say? Oh, no, that's blasphemy. You keep with pride. You stomp on your own culture, which is actually where you derive your true identity. You stomp it to the ground while you uphold someone else's. Raise it up to the sky. You even carry so your children can see images of other human beings that don't look like them on your shoulder to commemorate some religious. See, I don't want to pick on folks, but y'all know where I'm going with this. You know what I'm talking about. See, as a people, our lives are full of obstacles, which are manifestations of mental or physical blocks created by our own minds, our thought beliefs, our actions, handed to us to consume as an orange juice on a hot summer afternoon, which is our thirst. It quenches our thirst momentarily, but it opens our minds to absorb more of such things instead of drinking water, the real deal. We open our minds because we've gotten the taste of something foreign that somebody gave us. It quenches your thirst momentarily, but in the long run, it opens your mind to more and more of such information until you forget that if you're hot, you drink water. But if you're hot, you want Coke. If you're hot, you want orange juice. If you're hot, you want everything but what your body really needs, which is water. Our truth is our culture. Our identity is our culture. We have a lot of learned people walking around suppressing our culture. And then there are people who look up to these people who are doing the suppression and looking up to them as who they should emulate. And those of us who want to encourage our people to hold on. My father always said, when you own something and you throw it away, you will never get rich. We are the only people where people come into our houses, take our things, go back outside and sell it right back to us, and we think we got something new. This is how we think. Because we've lost our identity. We have lost our connection to what matters. We have lost connection to intuitive knowledge, which is what happens when you believe that you are one with the Creator. We wallow in low self-worth and self-esteem. To have real knowledge, my brothers and sisters, means to comprehend the truth. And the spirit principle is that God in you, the power within you, integrated with intellectual and spiritual knowledge. Integrated. Find your cultural precepts, your cultural values that you can integrate with your spiritual intuition and create your identity. We think that village people are stupid. If you see a village person, they're slender. They walk 10 miles, some of them every day. They don't sit on chairs. They don't sit around. They walk around. They get exercise. Because they're one. They're in tune with who they are. But the rest of us do everything, but do the right thing. We don't drink water. We don't exercise. We got all these gadgets around us. You know, we go from one sitting position to the other. We do all kinds of things that is not the way that our people work. So, in conclusion, let me just say this. In support of her, of that video, the lady in the video, to have Amamighe is to have true knowledge. And that true knowledge is the identity you were born in and what you find in your culture, the values in your culture. Embrace those. That is what makes you powerful. That's what makes you powerful. Nobody can undermine a person who understands who they are, who would not accept being lied to. It doesn't mean that you have to fight people or curse people out. It just means that you know, like we say, Monachiso, you have the power within you to make your own judgment, just like your ancestors did. It is our ability to act in accordance with principal knowledge of self without succumbing to principalities and people who would rather put money in our bank accounts and wrap chains around our minds and render us useless. This is where we are. This is where we are as a people. We become like the salivating dog in the hot sun who will not find shade because he thinks he still has chains around his neck. Most of us do. The reason why we will not embrace our culture, and as a matter of fact, we do everything to make anybody who embraces the culture to feel like they are less than. We celebrate other people's wealth, other people's whatever. But Africa, our own motherland, is naked. Naked because we have pulled ourselves away from her. We are the clothing. But we are putting our clothes in someone else's backyard. And they're walking tall and strong. And we're hunched over, feeling like we're not good enough. So, do you agree with what she said? Do you agree with anything I've just said? So I'm going to ask Yudi.
Yes, okay, Dibias. Well, you've said a mouthful, and I'm just going to dance around what you said because there's really not much to add other than to buttress what you have spoken about and what the lady we saw in the video, you know, was talking about, which is what we've always talked about on this show. Our history as people, you know, that have been going through a struggle for the past 400 years, slavery and colonization, the road before us is littered with great African leaders, nationalists, male and female, who spoke of the same thing and who understood that true freedom lies in knowledge of self, that understands that for you to fight imperialism and colonization, you have to have knowledge, you have to have Amamighe. Your greatest tool in terms of how you defend yourself is knowledge, or defend yourself or thwart imperialism is culture. And all human systems are products of religion. The culture of the people, the economics of the people, the history of the people, civic laws. Every human system is a product of religion. And what I just said is true Amamighe, which is lacking in every African society. Understanding that to fight imperialism, you must be steeped in your culture. We are the only people in this world, and I was going to say only culture, but I'm not going to say that because we don't observe our culture anyway. Everything we do is ceremonially. To observe true cultural identity, there is no separation between you and your culture, your religion, your history, in which lie your true identity. The European is not trying to be anything else but European, and to be European is to be Christian. Beyond or before Christianism, if you are from the Norse culture, for you to be Viking and be from the Norse culture, you had to believe in Norse religion. The Romans believed in paganism. That was their cultural identity, and that is what they used to influence other cultures and conquer other people within the region where they could reach. Love and truth is the highest religion. And they also say that the truth shall set you free. Let me repeat, this is true Nkomi, true Amamighe. And if religion means anything to you at all, and if you understand what God, ChinEke, is in this creation formula, for lack of a better word, you have to understand that love and truth is the highest religion, and it is said that the truth shall set you free. The only question is, are you able to handle it? Yeah, we all always talk about, just tell us the truth, but can you handle the truth? And are you selective about the truth that you want to hear? Do you really want to hear the truth? Because you're going to get plenty of truth from this program. Cheers and live. Let me define acquiescence. Okay, I hope I'm pronouncing it right. But it is passive acceptance or submission. This is where you find most African communities all over the world, whether it's in Europe, the United States, in the Caribbean, or on the motherland, or even in Asia. We've accepted, we have this passive acceptance and submission to the same doctrines that justified our enslavement in the first place and continues to hold us down. We want to be everything else other than what we are supposed to be as people of African ancestry. We want to embrace other religions and embrace other cultures and jettison what authentically makes us African. I'm very thankful for this show. I'm very thankful for Dibias. I'm very thankful for my my parents, for bringing us into this awakening, into creating forums like this, which is really an awakening for which all people of African ancestry have to give thanks to ChinEke, our creator, to God, for this emancipation forum, a harbinger of a greater tomorrow for freedom of the soul, spiritual freedom, self-realization, and actualization of all African people all over the world, so that we all can really truly be educated, because that is what education is: attainment of self-realization, Human, know thyself. That is the call of education. It is only in relation to your environment and culture that education has any meaning. You may have many doctorate degrees stringed to your name as handles, but if you're ignorant of the traditional spirituality of your race, which is the fulcrum around which the totality of human culture gyrates, you are simply an uneducated, though literate person, but alienated into the cultural vineyards of others, a glorified servant.
Yes.
This program is geared to give us all, to give you a true understanding of what Amamighe is, true self-knowledge. You know, education in its simplest form just allows you to fit squarely into a society and be a productive citizen. But that education also has to be based on your culture, your spirituality, your history, and your traditions. Unfortunately, for us in our African global communities, education, true education, is really lacking.
Yes.
We get fed lies.
Yes.
By those that colonized us and enslaved us. Then we adopted those lies that was told to our parents. Then our parent tells it to us in our household. And then when we go to school, we're told the same lies. And over the years, everything that is authentically African about you has been expunged from your mind. That's why you have Africans embracing everything foreign other than themselves, because they truly have no knowledge of self, because the educational system from the colonizer to the educational systems that were established by the colonizer through our parents, through our schools and the society in general, we have come to the point where Africans on any level do not have an outlet of true education and knowledge based on their own religion, history, and culture. And remember what I said.
Yes.
All systems are products of religion. Education, civic, judiciary, economic. They're all systems, they're all part of, they're all derived from religion. And because we don't have this true knowledge, we don't understand cultural and economic revitalization of the African community, which borders on 5 principles. One is cultural consistency, which I recommend for all people of African ancestry. And cultural consistency starts from religion. The cultural consistency in Europe is what? Christianity. The cultural consistency of the Arab world is Islam. For the Chinese, it is Buddhism, Confucianism, and Taoism, all based on their cultural journeys. In Japan, it's Shintoism. In India, it's Sikhism and Hinduism, so on and so forth. But in Africa, there is no cultural consistency in religion. We need that. That is not to say that indigenous African societies don't have different ways of supplication to ChinEke. They do, but there is a commonality amongst all this religion. And that commonality is that we all are reverent to nature. Because regardless of what African community you come from, we have the understanding that God is nature. We have that understanding. There is nowhere you go in Africa when you talk about indigenous religion that they don't associate God with nature. That is what Pan-Africanism is all about.
Yes.
This is a cultural identity.
Yes.
And like that lady said on the video, you cannot build a castle on sand. You cannot build a viable society in Africa that is based on anything other than Africa's culture.
Okay. Yes.
So now, let me just conclude. Our failure to pay attention has now brought us to where, because of this lack of true knowledge, we now justify our worth by standards that are not of our own choosing. Personal success, we have not equated that to being blessed by ChinEke. But what use is it if you're personally successful, but yet your children have to struggle with this identity? Your children have to always be under the gun of the colonizer. The society in general is rotten and nothing is being built in Africa. What good is your success in Europe as an African, on the islands, in the United States, or anywhere else in the world, when the motherland is burning? In Mporo, we say, you look real good, but your mother is naked in the village.
Yes. Let me give you Iche, fantastic, absolutely on point. Let me give Dibias Dozie an opportunity, and I'll bring Benson in, and Yudi, I'll bring you back in. All right. Thank you so much for sharing that wonderful, wonderful commentary. Dibias Dozie, Imale. We can't hear you. Unmute yourself. Unmute yourself.
Sorry for that. Okay, why?
How are you?
Hey, yes, so thanks for the spiritual food. I've been struggling with my internet.
Okay. Well, your thoughts on the video you saw and some of my comments.
Well, you said a lot, and Dibias has also said a lot. What we can do is to just put the eyes on the cake, like you ice the cake, like you say. Well, because of our situation, we have been indoctrinated and continuously been indoctrinated on alien systems. And this alien system, the summary of it is culture. It counts its education, religion, spirituality. And so what we are fed with is other people's ideologue, so that we are meant to be like zombies, so that we are always meant to be alienated from our past. Like I said once on this program, it's only in Africa that it is when we are getting to our grave that we suddenly remember our culture. And so if it is when we are getting to our grave, when somebody is 30, 40, 50, that's when we start remembering our culture, we start retracing our culture. It gets too late then we start suffering from split identity problem. It means the African tree is growing upside down. The branches are down to the ground and the roots are up. Well, the best that can happen is that the branches will develop adventitious roots and just stuck to the ground, and then the roots will try to adapt to become branches. But no matter how, it can never be a perfect tree. And so we are growing upside down, and that isn't good. So for me, I think we need modern education, because our problem now is the kind of education we are being given. The education we are being given is like what they call ultraviolent drugs that are meant to just keep the patient alive, not to cure the patient and not to let the patient die, because you didn't need the patient around for maybe commerce. And that's what they do with us with AIDS. They give us AIDS, give you some few grains and they milk you dry, and then the AIDS are just meant to keep you barely alive, because you need to be alive for them to keep exploiting one. And so we need more than the education that we are being given to go beyond this present circumstance. So when people say they are learned fellows, I don't argue with them. They say they are learned, they have read books. Yes, that's what we've been programmed to be, people with bookish knowledge. All our knowledge is in the book. And the books that we read are not books that we read spontaneously. We did not read this book voluntarily. We were forced to read these books. We were indoctrinated to read these books. So because we are indoctrinated to read these books, we only read what we were programmed to see. And we do not see beyond what we have been programmed to see. So we are zombies. And so for us to, and then quote and unquote, if you try to look outside this way of the teaching, you are tagged a rebel. You are tagged to being rebellious. It is worse that they even quote verses of the Bible that teach that God does not like rebellious people. God does not like rebellion. And so for us to be able to turn the table around, we need modern education, because to be a learned fellow means to have book knowledge. A for apple, B for baby, B for baby. That's what it means. And so I don't quarrel with people who say they are learned fellows. I reply them that, yes, you are the learned fellow. I am not a learned fellow. And they ask me, what are you? I say, I am an illuminated mind. I am an elevated mind, a developed mind. I look beyond what I am taught. I go outside the circle of what I have been taught. I want to see things my own way. I want to realize things my own way, on my own terms, based on the foundation of my culture. I want to be rooted in my culture, to see what I want to see, because that is the only way to go, to grow. To grow, you must stand upon an ontology. This ontology must be rooted in your culture. It must be taken from your culture. And so that when you are rooted in your culture, you grow within your ontology, and that ontology defines who you are within your spirituality, and then you start going along the line of what the Igbo will say, agoge to gelibea. That agoge to gelibea is dialectics, because dialectics simply means I see the world from my premise, and I project the world from my premise. Then I reach out to the world, I encounter the world bigger than myself, and I come back to myself to reconcile this confusion, so that I arrive at a higher level of realization. I move out again. Each time I have problem, I come back to myself. But in Africa, we have been programmed, skewed to begin discourse from outside, and this outside is Europe. And the extension of Europe is America, which Europe regards at its highest point of its own civilization. Now other races are coming in to Africa to also make us to begin to look towards their own direction. Beijing and the Indians are now making us to look towards Delhi. The Chinese are coming in through Chinese village. The Indians are coming in through entertainment, Z World, and their religion is here. They even visit our universities. They already have some of us as converts. And anytime you invite them to come and teach Indian perspective of anything, they bring the religion. Religion is what they come. They keep looking for converts. And so that's what we are. And that's why Casey Anyanwu wrote that we are like confused people who have gone to the four winds of the world to sign pact with chaos. So that our minds and spirits are not in Africa. Our minds are to London. Our spirits are to Rome. Our minds are to Moscow, to Beijing. Our spirits are to India. Our minds are to Washington. So our minds and our spirits are not in Africa. What is in Africa is our bodies. That is why it is only when we are dead that we remember Africa. This can only be obtained when we seek for knowledge, go beyond knowledge, to seek for illumination, because illumination is what defines the human spirituality. The human spirituality is driven by what we call transcendence. And transcendence is that us as human beings, we are created to transcend, like God, the creator, ChinEke, transcends every moment. We are created, endowed natively, naturally, to transcend any given circumstance. That is why the education that we are given in Chism touches on our spirituality, who you are, because it's only when you realize who you are that you can transcend. Let me put it at this point. They would.
Thank you so much. Thank you. This is wonderful. Thank you, Yudi. Thank you, Chief Dibias Chidozie. I mean, you set it off real good. Now, let me invite Benson. Benson, how are you again?
I'm good. I'm good.
You've heard what Dibias Yudi said, and Dibias Chidozie, and of course myself. What are your thoughts? Share with us your thoughts about what you've heard and also what you saw in the video and how you see that happening in Kenya, because Kenya obviously is another African country that's challenged spirituality by foreign religions. So talk to us about what's going on in Kenya.
Yeah, much have been said, but I'll just add something little to what have been said already. What I think, according to the lady says, we are deep in Islam religion, we are deep in Christianity, we are deep in, other foreign religion, and there's nothing Africa. To myself, it's like in another way, the lady was trying to say we're enjoying the story without getting what the story is all about. Yeah, because and as the brother said, it doesn't matter even if you have the doctorate, you're educated in this religion, you won't still get it. So it's like we're enjoying the story without getting what the story is really about. We don't know what Islam entails. We don't know what Christianity entails, and we don't know what Buddhism entails. So even if you get converted, there is no day an African will be the head of a Catholic Church, because we don't know what it entails. There is no day an African will be the head of the Church of England or the Canterbury Church, they call it so, because we don't know what these things entails. And I thank this platform for promoting the African ideology. So also, we are, because for a person to use you, he has to make you feel inferior. And I think these people succeeded on that part 100%. Like the Africa, they feel inferior, like anything about themselves. Yeah, anything about themselves, they feel is inferior. Something coming from outside will be appreciated. Something homegrown or local grown is not appreciated. They feel like it's of a lower standard. So we're suffering from inferiority conflicts. And everybody's suffering. Also the West, the Europe, they're suffering from superiority complex. And this thing also comes from, to us, it's from generation to generation. To them also is from generation to generation. They have been trained, they have been brought up to believe that the Africans are inferior. And also from generation to generation, we've been brought up like that without being taught, but if you observe even the way the African, the elder people behave, or any person behave in front of a person from Western country or European country, there is a lack of confidence. Yeah. So this thing is like it's in the DNA. And also the Western, they have it in their DNA. So both parties suffering from all these superiority conflicts and inferiority complex. Complex. Yeah, it's like one party is lamenting and another party is hankering. We are hankering to be like them, and also they have lost their empires, so they are lamenting for what they have lost already. Yeah, and as the brothers say, we have to go transcendental. We have to go transcendental. I love that word transcendental. We have to go beyond pious and impious. Yeah, it's not about all being good or to have these virtues of good, of kindness, and all the stuff. And we have to go beyond good and bad. We have to transcend. When we transcend, we become self-realized, as the brother says. When we're becoming self-realized, we get connected with what we really are. To me, that's defined what transcendental means. And self-realization. We go beyond good and bad.
That's right. I mean, the reason why I thought it was very important that you came in here, because I want people to understand this is not a Nigerian issue only. you know, because we're Nigerian and we're talking about this. It's no. It's African issue.
Yes.
An African issue wherever you go. Now, the countries that are doing much better are those who have now instructed, particularly Rwanda, that you have to have a degree in theology to be able to teach it. In other words, you have to understand what you're teaching. Now, for me, it still doesn't make a difference because, you know, you're still not teaching people the value of their culture. But at least we don't have all these abaradus running all over the place, you know, claiming that they know about God more so than the village Dibia. Do you understand what I'm saying? And even as a matter of fact, one of the things that is exciting for us as chiefs, okay, in the past, many people don't even want to be called Dibia. Okay, that is our. In my case, I have 2 doctorate degrees. Okay, right. Instead of saying doctor, we say Dibia. But you also, Dr. Chiedozie Okoro has a doctorate degree. Okay, Dibia Yudi has a master's degree, but he's pushing for his doctorate. But he's Dibia because that is our terminology for people who have knowledge in our spiritual cultures. And he has reached a pinnacle that he is Dibia in that knowledge. Do you understand what I'm saying? So we used to be ashamed of that. People didn't want to be called Dibia. Oh my God, that's voodoo. But saying Dibia is to acknowledge that we are just as intellectual as anybody else. And we have our own terminology for identifying our knowledgeable people. You understand what I'm saying? You said it earlier. We believe that everything foreign is good. We believe in it with zeal. Dibia Chedozie said that. Dibia Yudi said that as well. As long as, I said it earlier, what my father says, you can never get rich when you throw away your stuff. You can never get rich. We are poor spiritually because we've thrown away our spirituality. So it doesn't matter what academic achievements we have. It doesn't matter. As long as we look down on our spirituality, we are spiritually poor. You can't compete with the people whose spirituality you're fighting for. These people have set up so many holidays to drain us of our monies. Go to Nigeria and see all the holidays that we celebrate. You stay in a hotel during Christmas. You can't sleep. Jingle bells, jingle bells. I said, people, we don't have snow here. Eh? What is this? Dashing through this snow. And they're singing bells. Well, half of you haven't even seen snow. And then you have this Santa Claus with anyway, I don't want to even go there because it's so annoying. But the bottom line is this: why is it that it's not okay for our children to see African images and be excited about it? Why? This is not being a racist. This is not being ethnocentric. This is not being anti-anybody. This is just keeping it real. If you don't teach your children that they are good enough, then other people will make mincemeat of their minds. Now, let me tell you, there's a young lady being celebrated, and I applaud her. In China, she was valedictorian. How many of you have seen that young woman from Nigeria? Valedictorian in China. The best student in China. The best. But what really made me sad is she can tell you everything about, she speaks the Chinese language and everything. And I prayed, child, I'm so proud of you. But please, I pray that you can speak Igbo like that. I pray that you can stand there and recite in Igbo. When I speak Igbo, some people say, you can still speak it. Why do you think I can't? What I'm saying is people see me, hey, you still remember Igbo? Why not? Hey, this is fantastic. Why is that fantastic? That's my tongue. That's my cultural language. I should celebrate it more so than anyone else's. When I go to the village, I don't speak English. I speak my language to them. And they get excited that I can speak it. Like Dibias said, you can celebrate other people's stuff, but your mama is naked in the village. Unless you can show pride in who you are walking around in nakedness. And we need to stop that. So I'm going to take a quick break and just play Biakute Yabiazurike, because one of our viewers has said, I missed that song. Could you please play it? So let's play it as we take a quick break. If you have to go get something to drink or whatever, this is the time to do it. Now we'll be right back and to continue our conversation.
Nsọ gị Chukwu ka ị na-abata, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Anya bịawa ịsọpụrụ gị ugbu a, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Bịa o bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Bịa o bịakwute ya, bịa o bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Chukwu nna n'ụlọ gị ka ị na-akpọ gị, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Otito na-adịrị gị mgbe niile, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Bịa o bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Bịa o bịakwute ya, bịa o bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Ụmụeliwa yikọta n'otu, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Ka anyị jikọfe ya ofufe Gọdian, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Bịa o bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Bịa o bịakwute ya, bịa o bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Gọdianism bụ ịhụnanya n'udo, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Butere anyị ụzọ kpetara anyị azụ, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Bịa o bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike. Bịa o bịakwute ya, bịa o bịakwute ya, bịakwute ya bịa zuru ike.
For those of you who don't know what that song is saying, come to the Creator, ChinEke, and find your peace and find your joy. Because what you're looking for over the fence, outside of your culture, does not exist. Because they're all fabrications. And so keep it real and come back to who you are. What is the importance? I want each one of you, now we can talk about our culture. Why is our spiritual culture important? Why is African spirituality important to us as African people? Now, spirituality is important to every nation. Every culture in the world has the right to go to God in the way they understand best. As a matter of fact, that's one of our creed. We all have the right to go to God in the way we understand best, without quarrels, without bitterness. But why is it for us as African people that our spiritual traditions is important? Now, let's admit that there are some diversity in our African spiritual traditions. But that's the thing about Chiism. We embrace that. We want you to know that it's precious, it's important. That's what your ancestors left for you. And we know that it is important for you to practice it because, again, as I said earlier, therein lies your true identity. Okay, so but I'm going to ask each one of you. I'll start with Judy. What is the importance of African spirituality as a people, as African people?
I'll give you a nugget which most of us don't think about as people of African ancestry. As a matter of fact, I don't even think that other cultures think about what I'm about to say. And you're going to hear it here on Chism Live. You're not going to hear this assessment anywhere else. So here we go. Your primordial religion is important to you as a person, as a culture. It's important to your identity, your education, your self-realization. Human know thyself. That is the call of education. And it is only in relation to your environment and culture that your education has meaning. I'm not talking about being trained as an engineer. That's book knowledge, like Dibias Chidozie had mentioned. These are professional training. But as an individual, as a person, as a culture, as a people, the reason why religion is important in your self-realization and understanding is because it contains the first principle of your beginning. As an African, the first man on earth cannot be a Chinese. The first woman on earth cannot be Japanese. The first person on earth, in your culture, in your environment, in your history, in your religion, is from your own environment, your own community. The European, spiritually speaking and religiously speaking, with his institution, don't consider the first person on earth Japanese. The Indian, the Hindu, does not consider the first woman on earth an Amazonian or an Eskimo. Your beginning, your understanding of self has to come from who you truly are. The first person to inhabit this earth, the first person to be created by the Almighty ChinEke, has to come from your environment. That is why it is important, because when you have a true understanding of this, then it is important. It's how do you say? You're able to look at yourself as unique to your environment, to your history, without your mind being scattered with information outside of your own history. It doesn't make sense. A cat cannot say that their ancestor is a dog. A dog can't say my ancestor is a cat. That's what we're doing when it comes to religion. Religion, in its etymology, simply means a duty a person feels compelled to perform in reverence to something greater than themselves. And that something is the Almighty ChinEke. So your supplication to God is the fact that you understand spiritually and religiously that you are a descendant of God, the creator. And if you're created in God's image, what are you talking about? You're talking about physical and spiritual emancipation, identity. You're spiritually one with your creator. And physically, you see yourself in Igbo culture. We say, Madubuchi Beya, the God that you seek is in you. So the God that I seek is in me. That ChinEke is African. He ain't Chinese. Because the China man does not see his God as from my village in Umporo, Nigeria. Does not see his God from Kenya, from Mount Kilimanjaro. Your identity, as far as creation is concerned, is a direct connection between you and the Almighty ChinEke. This is why it is very important that you see God from their own perspective, because he gives you that identity that is not subservient to anybody else, and therefore your mind is not easily corruptible. Let me say one more thing. The problem in Africa, I'm going to give you, this is a juxtaposition, okay? If you ask the Amazonian evidence about God in his environment. He's going to tell you the jaguar. He's going to tell you the anaconda. He's going to tell you the crocodile. He's going to mention the rains and the piranhas and the Amazon River. All those life-sustaining forces in the Amazonian jungle is evidence for him or her of the presence of God in that environment. They see God based on that environment and the life-sustaining forces within that environment. If you ask the Eskimo to give you evidence of God in his spirituality and religion, he's going to mention the snow, the polar bear, the tuna, the Arctic fox, all those life-sustaining forces, the snow in their environment is evidence of God to them, and that supplication method is based on their environment and that evidence. The problem with Africa is that the Eskimo has now come down to the Amazon jungle to tell the Amazonian to start seeing snow, to start seeing God the way the Eskimo sees God in the North Pole. We don't have any polar bears in the Amazon. We don't have any snow in the Amazon. We don't have any Arctic fox in the Amazon. We don't have the tuna in the Amazon. We don't have the only life-sustaining force that is common amongst all human beings as far as our environment is concerned is rain and the air you breathe. That's it. Land has plants and all that stuff in the jungle, but in the Arctic, there are no plants, but they still have land covered by snow. The only thing that we have in common as spiritual human beings, as physical human beings, is the air that we breathe that keeps us alive no matter where we are. But for you to see God or see ChinEke as something else other than the life-sustaining forces within your environment is blasphemy. It's bad for us as people of African ancestry, and that is why in the 21st century, we are still unable to keep up with the rest of the world because we continue to justify our worth by standards that are not of our own choosing. That is why religion is important.
Thank you.
In building a society, because you see yourself as the second principle after creation.
Yes, yes, yes. Thank you. Thank you. That is wonderful, wonderful. Now, I have a question for Dibias Chidozie. You know, one of the things that most people, when they tell you about African spirituality, is that it's a very open kind of, you know, it's not based on dogmatism. It's very open and accommodating. It's flexible. And that's why, like in our village, I would go to your shrine and watch you pour libations, eat kola nut from your shrine. We're very accepting. Okay. So do you think that this is why African spirituality has survived many generations?
Well, I will answer that question by saying that I don't think that is the main reason. For me, I think it's because our ancestors never say die. And I think it is because our divinities never say die. Because for someone like me, like I told you several times on this program, I was arrested by the ancestors and the divinities of Africa. They never say die. And a lot of the diseases, because if you practice Alpha Dibia and you stay where the Dibias are treating people, you see a lot of people from church, from mosque, they come to the Dibia for cure. Mm-hmm. And the first thing that the Dibia does is to send them to their homes, their village. They ask them, both from the Igbo side and the Yoruba side that witness this, they send them back to their village. And when they go back to their village, the deity there tells them, yes, I hit you with disease so that you can come back home to teach you some senses. And so that's because what you call spirit, it doesn't die, it's inextinguishable. And they are there calling us home. But I think the greatest thing that deters us from going is, one, because our religion brings you up on the principle of understanding who you are, and understanding who you are in tandem with what your society is, what your family is, what your village is, and what the environment, the entire cosmos is. That the human being is not human being alone. We're a human being in tandem with the principles of the environment from which the town, the society is built, because the society is built on ordinala, and ordinala are the principles of the cosmic. So we do not build society. So because, and then that is why for us, there is no eternal hell, but there is punishment here and now. So there's no forgiveness. And so there are two religions that have come and say, you can sin, keep eating your cake and having your cake back. And so when you sin and sin, you can go and ask for penance. Right? And so people find that very, very difficult, because the African one says you must practice self-regulation. You must know who you are, and you must learn how to keep principles. Which is why I say, if we are into our culture, into our spirituality, we would by today have internalized science and gone beyond the moon.
Yes.
Because if you study our spirituality, it is exactly what science is.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but just to add a little bit to what Dibias said, I think the fundamental thing that we are missing with when we are not touching base with our culture, with our spirituality, is covenant. Mm-hmm. Our ancestors, the first primordial people, came, saw the world, and build some principles and structure. And they did not just build these principles and structure on the book. They made a covenant with it. Mm-hmm. And sometimes it involved blood covenant.
Yes.
And blood covenant is difficult to break. If you break it, you will suffer forever. You cannot run away from it. The best you can do is renew it. And I've given examples here on this program. While back in Ghana, there's a practice that the people from a part of Ghana do. They go and capture lion life. But this lion, a lot in the process, some of them died. So they went back and made supplications and gave reasons why in this time they cannot keep using their bare hands to catch lion. So the thing has to be changed with catching a live deer. So, but the essence of the culture remains. But that which has got a cake was changed. Mm-hmm. So you can change the paraphernalia of your culture, but you cannot change the ontology, the spirituality. You must keep the hardcore, but you can keep changing the paraphernalia, but the hardcore remains. So covenant is what we mean. So to round off, I think on two occasions, one was on radio program. Somebody laughed at me on a radio program where we started. I introduced myself as a traditionalist, an Alpha practitioner, and he was laughing. But by the time we kept arguing, I made nonsense. I made nonsense of his Christianity. I made nonsense of Islam. When I used the African perspective to peruse Islam, they saw the Nili Holo in their religion. And they became terrified. And I told them, yes, what I've done to you is what you do to me. You wear the lenses of Christianity, lenses of Islam, to look at my religion. So you denigrate it. Now today I want my own lens and look at your religion. And woe betide you, I was once a practitioner of the two religions. So I know them inside out. So you see, so then the second one where Indians visited me here, they were discussing from the point of Bhagavad Gita. Art was discussing from the point of African. So much so that the Indian, one of the South African guy that came said, Prof, what I love most about you is that everything you discuss is from pure African perspective. There is nothing you said that is outside African perspective. That is what it means for you to grow in your trajectory. You see the world in your purview. And so to round off, I'd like to say hello to our Kenya brother. Thank you.
Hello, brother.
That's the power. That is the power of self-discovery, the power of
Wow.
self-knowledge.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you, Benson, based on what you heard, there's one aspect of African spirituality that I have a curiosity, or perhaps you have a curiosity about. You know, when people say that African spirituality is holistic, what does it mean to you that African spirituality is holistic?
Wow, this is a big question. But what I would say, this one, I don't know much about African spirituality to begin with, because of and that's why I'm on this platform. I want to be introduced to this African spirituality.
Yes.
Because I feel like I want to reconnect. I want to go back to the roots.
Yes.
And I won't talk much about this one because it's above me. But what I will say is that, like, when you're doing your duty, there is a blessing in it. When you're doing your duty, even if you're doing it imperfectly, there is a blessing in it than doing somebody's duty perfectly, because that's not your duty. So going outside, even if you become, perfect in those kinds of religion, there is that blessing which you won't get than a person who has stick to his African roots. Even if he's doing it imperfectly, even if she's doing it imperfectly, it comes with the blessings. Yeah, as you say that we're suffering from identity crisis. When you begin by saying, when we try to assimilate all this other religion, it's like you're trying to assume something, and when you're assuming something, you get confused.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I'm here to be taken out of that confusion.
Yes. Well, welcome. Your mind. And I just want to add to what that whole concept is. And the reason why I said that to you is because this is what African spirituality is. Wholesomeness. It's holistic because we don't leave anything out of it. Nature is part of it. Everything about nature is part of our spirituality. And to honor nature is part of celebrating African spirituality. All right? Yes. We unfortunately have been taught that we don't have to celebrate this. What we celebrate is something that happens after we die. So we can desecrate everything that's around us, not respect nature, not even respect each other, but we wait till we get to this place where God is. That means God's not here, you understand? He's somewhere you're going to go when you die. And yet nobody has come back to tell us what it looks like on the other side. And quite frankly, nobody's eager to leave. Everybody wants to stay here. When it's time to go, so you can find out what's on the other side, everybody wants to take pills. They go to the doctors then. They even travel, these pastors traveled abroad, overseas, to save their lives, even when they're hunched over and they're ready to go. It's time to go. Go see the other side, So African spirituality takes into consideration what is in the now, right here. We take that into consideration. We imagine, of course, we believe that our ancestors, when you get to a certain age 80, you become an ancestor, and now you're free to roam the space and become a guardian angel, so to speak, But one of the things I want to add, Chidozie, you may be interested in this.
Yes, sir.
When our elders are teaching us, they have a tendency to teach using nature. They don't teach us saying something that happens anywhere else. They use nature to teach. They tell you why the Iroko tree is the way it is and how you should be like the Iroko. They tell you why the great river doesn't run dry. You should, they even name their children Oshimiri, deep waters that don't run dry, because they honor nature. There's a significance. There's a story about the turtle and the turtle and I think it's the hen. They went to visit each other. When the turtle got to the hen's house, he says, "Oh no! When the hen got to the turtle's house, the turtle said, 'Oh my goodness, you are here! I'm so excited to see you. Well, I have something for you.' He presented, kola nut, right? But instead of presenting the actual kola nut, he gave the rooster gave the rooster a stone and told the rooster to break the stone. The rooster said, 'Well, okay, thank you for giving me the stone, but I have something for you.' He says, 'I tell you what, I have so much work I have to do. I need your help.' He takes a cloth and puts it on his head and bends over and says to the turtle, 'Could you help me carry the earth on my head?' The rooster said, the hen said, 'Help you carry the earth on your head?' So I got something else for you. I'm going to give you some chickens that I laid, that my rooster laid.' The rooster said, 'Well, a rooster laying an egg. I say this to say to you, they are using things in the nature to teach you to use your mind and figure things out.' The chicken says, roosters don't lay eggs. So there's no way you can give me an egg. And the turtle says, 'Well, we don't eat stones. We eat kola.' And here you are asking me to help you carry the earth. You can't carry the earth. You're supposed to use nature to teach the children to think. There's nothing in what I just said to you about, knowing about angels, knowing about fictitious things. It's knowing about what it is that's important to us and how when somebody tries to trick you, you need to use your mind and I'll trick them. When all was said and done, the rooster and the turtle understood that what they were saying to each other was not true. And they shook hands and said, 'Yeah, you got me. But you got me not because you're superior to me. You got me because you're a thinker. I could not outthink you.' This is how we teach our children, using nature and forcing them to think. We don't lie to them. We don't lie to them, but every Sunday we lie to our children. We tell them we teach them how to give so much money to the pastor so we can go to heaven. If you don't do something, you're going to go burn in hell. That's not how we teach. We teach using nature to teach how to be smart. If somebody's trying to con you, you out-con them.
Sure.
You don't kill them. You don't do anything to damage them, but use your mind. My people, we're not using our minds. Does that make sense to you, Dibias?
Sure.
Yeah, you've said a lot already. But all I just want to say, you see, when I go through most foreign religions, I see that they look from the sky downwards. And when I go into African spirituality, I see that we look from the ground upwards.
Upwards, yes.
So that is why our eyes are to nature. And that's part of that's exactly the nitty-gritty, the foundation of what we call spirituality. Understanding humanity in tandem with nature, the forces of nature, the principles of nature, living by these principles. That's why our ancestors built the philosophy of Onyebiri Beyabiri. All right, live and let live. That is to say, like the relationship between man and society and the cosmos is the relationship between fish and water. Let the river not dry, let the fish not die. And so that's why our ancestors developed society to reflect nature. Even the way they developed society was segmentized from the individual to the family, to the clan, to the village. That's how they segmentized it, like that. And every unit performed its function, just like the cells of our body. And so, not to drag this too long, because you have already said it all. There's a particular, I think I'll post you that particular video when we finish this program. One of my friend Dibias posted something to me, a white man, I think either a Briton, complaining that science graduates of today know it all in the book, but know nothing in nature. So they know it all in the book, and they do peer review, but peer review of what is in the book, not what is in nature. So even they themselves are complaining that they have gone too far away from nature, which is why those of us who gave the world this spirituality of nature must go back to it. Like I always say, we Africans are the ones with the most original spirituality. We are the most original people. And we are, if you say God created man in God's image, that first man was African. And we are the firstborn of God. And we must be proud of that. Thank you.
I just wanted to add something to, well said, Dibias Chidos here. I just want to add something to this holistic questions that Dibias had asked distinguished guest Benson. In African spirituality, when you talk about a holistic religion, you're talking about the interconnectedness of everything. Everything is interconnected. There's no separation, right? Holistically. Even in medicine, the Dibias, when they practice medicine, when they're treating the whole person, they're treating both physical, mental factors, and the environment, how any one of these things can affect your health. So when they're teaching you something, I mean, when they're treating you, they're just not treating you from the perspective that, oh, you're sick. There's something physically wrong with you. And here's what you need to take so that you could, you know what I'm saying? Look at it this way. If you have malaria, you exhibit a lot of symptoms, right? You have a cough, you have fever, you have the chills, and so on and so forth. And if you leave it untreated, you start to vomit blood. Normally, if you give somebody medicine, you're really treating the symptoms. And you may quieten down the symptoms, but tomorrow they come back again. So you can ask the question, is your problem the fever, the cold, the cough, the chills, or is your problem the reason why you are experiencing these symptoms? Is your problem the parasite causing it? Or holistically, is your problem the mosquito? And let's go even deeper. Holistically, how did the mosquito get to propagate? Do you have standing water around? What do you need to deal with so that you don't have a whole lot of mosquitoes around, so that these mosquitoes don't bite somebody and put the parasites in them, then give them the symptoms of malaria, then they end up sick, and if not treated, dead. You have to treat everything if you want to deal with malaria. You have to treat the environment that harbors the mosquito, that carries the parasite, that is now put into somebody when you're bitten by the mosquito. Same thing with the holistic nature of African spirituality. It is this interconnectedness that makes African spirituality very unique. Your, how do you say it, good and bad, everything is all together. They work hand in hand, understanding those relationships. And one of those relationships is, does good exist without evil?
No.
Does it? Does evil exist without good?
No.
So unless it's affecting you personally, is evil really a bad thing? Because you can't be short and tall at the same time. You need short people to let you know you're tall. So my point is, this interconnectedness is the holistic nature of African spirituality, because you cannot address one thing without addressing the totality of your existence. So I just want to put that in there.
Yeah. So to wrap it up, what technically, when we teach that in philosophy, we say the African does not, will say, you don't go to the forest and see one tree, you see trees. It's among the trees you identify one tree. You don't go to the seashore and see one grain of sand. What you see are grains of sand from which are you pick. So the African says the one belongs in the many, and the many contains the one. And so we don't practice collectivism. Neither do we practice individualism. What we practice is solidarity, togetherness.
Yes, sir.
Because most people think that African spirituality is about collectivism. That's communism. And communism stifles the interest of the individual. And we don't practice individualism because it stifles the interest of the group. What we practice is togetherness, solidarity. Bebike, that's what we practice. Ibuwa in Danda, that's what we practice.
Well said. Yes.
As opposed to yes, when we work together, we're able to achieve more.
Wow.
You know, I just want to do a little wrap up here. We are free people. Our freedom has been given to us by God, by ChinEke, by Olodumare. Whatever name you have for divine mind, our freedom was given to us when we were born. Our nature was formed in our mother's womb. And when we came out free. Now, our identity was when we came out, what was around us, our culture, our great-grandmothers, great-grandfathers, our mothers, our fathers, our siblings, our extended family. That is our culture. That is where we build experiences. Now, that is our identity. What we learn outside is not necessarily our identity. You know, my father went to the United Nations and he asked them to redefine civilization as man's ability to live with his fellow man in peace and harmony, without bitterness, without wars, without quarrels. And anybody who is able, any nation that is able to live with his fellow man, with other nations without war, should win an award as the most civilized nation in the world. They accepted his redefinition of civilized behavior.
Well,
freedom is what he had in his mind, to have the audacity to go to the United Nations to tell them that. He was free. He was born free. He knew who he was. His identity was African, and he took that concept to the UN to say, this is African spirituality, living in harmony with your fellow human beings. That is how you determine your civilization. That is how you earn the term civilized behavior, not your technological know-how, not your economic opulence, but your ability to live with your fellow human being. That is African spirituality. Madubuchibe, we are God to each other. This is African spirituality. It's not that technical. African spirituality is not something so deep that you have to struggle to understand it. It's simple. It's being one with nature, respecting each other. Our freedom was given to us when we were born. Our identity is our culture. Freedom, when offered with a caveat, keeps us in perpetual fear of taking advantage of our freedom. Most of us are so compelled by the theoretical desire to live as something we're not. Because somebody said, we become curiosity seekers. We go from one church to the other. We will try a little of this and a little of that. We never stick to anything because it's never good enough. It's outside of our culture. So we go in there, it's not good. We go in there, you know. So today this person is Anglican. Tomorrow he's Baptist. You just keep going. And then some of us are becoming, we're reading the Torah. We are becoming Jewish What is all? I mean, you think about it, we're in it. Everything
but African, we're in it.
We attend workshops. We read books written by somebody else. No clue about anything written by our own people. In a crisis, we panic. We don't know what to do. In our disappointment, we criticize other people. When we condemn, in fear, we lie. In anger, we become unforgiving and judgmental. We are always seeking to find the truth while we live in his, her truth. We are manifestations of the divine. We are already there. You see, theory alone doesn't do any good. We must practice the principles of our culture, our spirituality. It doesn't have to be too deep. It's just what is. It's true knowledge. It's what is. It's what was given to us. Our ancestors lived together under the banner of their culture. We must become a little bit more discerning. We must become consistent and devoted to the practice of true knowledge of self, and demonstration of real truth. We must stop being theoretical spiritualists. We must stop being so quick to condemn our own things and forgive other people. We must start being grateful for the blessings that ChinEke has given to us. We must try understanding that the world, through someone else's prism, makes us intellectual nomads as long as we keep chasing them. Let us praise our cultural tenets. Let us praise ChinEke. Let us praise our ancestors. Let us honor our elders. And most importantly, when we look in the mirror, let us thank God for us. In all our Africanness, our hair, our skin color, our wide noses, our thick lips, whatever, we must be grateful beyond measure for the knowledge of self to understand that right where we are, God is. We are the manifestations of the divine. We should stop having difficulty giving ourselves accolades for just being. We have the right to be just like everyone else. Our ancestors did enough to the best of your ability. It is our responsibility now to keep moving who they were forward. Knowledge is knowing that it's okay to be who you are. Give more to our people. Have the satisfaction of existing as we are. Stop being so critical about your Africanness. Stop looking down on who you are. Stop condemning our ancestors, our cultures. There's nothing they're showing us here that will cause our eyes to bleed. We can see through all this stuff. It's not going to hurt our eyes. What hurts us is the moment that we decide that we are not good enough, and we teach our children they're not good enough. We teach our children to abandon who they are. We give them foreign names. We don't even allow them to wear African clothing. We tell them you are less than. The day that we start teaching our children in African culture, in African language, that is the day they earn the power of being African. The day that they can recite, Dibias says it all the time, the day that they can say, learn science in Igbo, learn science in Hausa, learn science in Kenyan language, learn science in African language. That is the day they become powerful. But as long as knowledge is in someone else's language, there's no power in that. It's just acquiescence. You're just agreeing with what you're taught. There's no independent thought there. Brothers and sisters, it's been another exciting program, and I am so grateful that you joined us today. I want to thank the Dibias. Thank you so much, Dibias Udi. Thank you so much, Dibias Chiedozie. Want to thank you, Benson, for being here, joining us. And learned something today. We certainly would like to have you keep coming Don't let this be the last time you visit. Ask questions. We'll be more than happy to answer your questions and continue to relate to you. The rest of you, thank you, Dibias Chedozie, all of you, all the people who joined us today. DOCC, thank you to, let's see, Ukuna Ugochukwu. Thank you to, let's see, Kimi Bro. Thank you very much to Zainab Zid. Ahmed, thank you very much. Let's see, I can't call up everybody, but let's see, Vicky Nettles Johnson, Jensen, I'm sorry. Jenkins Owa, thank you so much for all of you, those that I didn't call, and K.O. Miri, all of you who joined us today. Thank you. And I pray that today you will be safe where you're going. May ChinEke be in front of you. May the ancestors be beside you, behind you, under you, so that wherever you go today, you will find nothing but peace and goodness. Yagazienu. And so it is. See you next time. Wonderful presentation as well.
Great show.